Shirley here with Sirius Talis Moon, and this is the third episode. We're having small series, um, Mercury Hour. Now, I stopped at saying the issue around, for example, therapy, where as an apprentice, one could run into an issue that is way deeper and intricate. But here is the caveat. When it comes to rape, there is no time. When it comes to defending oneself from rape, there is no tackling the issue it's a life or death issue. And it's a life or death issue with everyone, whether they admit it or not. Their behavior is the result of that. It's the mothers that unalive their children so that they would not be subjected to the rape. And sometimes these mothers don't even know that, and we call that postpartum depression. I knew a case where a woman was giving birth to a child. The father was not mistreating the child, but mistreating her, and she had hospitalized herself so not to kill her baby. When the world has left no option that is not rapey to a person, man or woman, by the way, then entire human extinction is euthanasia. And I was talking about the woman that was assisting Los Alamos because the man that was developing the bomb, I think it was Oppenheimer, but I'm not sure, um, was treating her as a woman with respect, both to her intelligence, and if no other man was, dude, what's his goals and dream? Developing a bomb? Amazing. Understandable. Like, who would want to live in a society that rapes them and justifies that and think that they should be raped? That's the thing. Do you know that people in Israel actually think that women should be raped? And there's the amount that the fact that that this even gets through to the filter, that there's not enough men stopping that thought. That is even an issue. Of course, it's a perpetual war state. If people think that women should be raped, of course, it's a perpetual war state. A perpetual war state can have no sovereignty. And here is the thing, the exact structure that is the blame shifting, the overall putting women in a situation where they really have no way to go, no way to own a business, no way to be an employee, no way to live, no way to take space for themselves, even within their bodies. Of course, it will create an A bomb. If they didn't leave an option where a woman is not raped and is safe and free, then should they be, why should they be crying about their people going into mass graves? Regardless of who is they, because the they is also a we. Mars is applying to square Jupiter from Aries, which is exactly the individual human rights. Now, there's nothing in particular other than Ketu Magha that tells us women rights. Look at that fluffy thing. I don't have the rights for that. It's just a fluffy thing. Um, um, but this is where there hardly is anything to remind us of the outer planets in Venus sign or in Cancer. And yet, if we remember that, and Chiron will do probably a great job of reminding us that, if we remember that, then we can get to have a win that is not a Pyrrhus win, a success that is actually fulfilling, and a legacy that does stand the test of time because it's not built on rape. It also begs the question to the women that went through rape to build a legacy, bring children, and so on and so forth. Um, how should I say it? When something like the Me Too arrives, they are confronted with a lot of intricacies. First of all, of the time that certain discourse was not available in the time where they went through that. And then how do they build to liberate themselves from these rapey timelines rather than force others into rape? And a lot of the women have to deal with, particularly our, and big shout out to Cult of Consciousness. There was the work of Christine, and this is where, um, let me see um, if I can see the episode. I opened the morning. Now you're going to see all of my list. And I hope the history includes all the files. Um, and okay, no, I see. Either I missed it or I don't see it. Yeah, call to consciousness, the making of a false prophet. Um, so This is a lady that infiltrated a polygamous cult, FLDS, something like that. FLDR, I don't know. FLDS. Um, and she describes that she herself began to feel brainwashed while infiltrating the cult. And this is something that happens because the transition to from trauma bond to secure attachment and from misplaced arousal to relaxed arousal wasn't complete and refined, and this is what the cult like structures can still kind of bait on. Now, this is one of the most important things to consider because misplaced arousal and trauma bond feels like fear. There is a component of fear, and people may be thinking of themselves as, I don't know, attracted to danger and so on. Underneath that is usually a lot of disembodiment from ritual abuse trauma in infanthood. People used to say childhood, but this is different timelines that we're talking about. And this is where um, the emphasis on love that is actually loving and of going from misplaced arousal to relaxed arousal, and also of the parentified child, because a lot of these cults are working on the parentified child. They are raping children upon puberty to bring the next generation. So of course they are parentifying children. And I was talking with my series on Alcyone on the inability to be a girl. And this is where one of the challenges that still stands for occultists and esotericism and women of any sector is tackling that truly and authentically. Because a therapist and a healer woman that here's a woman that comes to get out of those patterns and ideates the perpetrator, or a woman, I don't know, occultist that ideates misplaced arousal or pain pleasure, might find it difficult to discern that the woman that is speaking up is not coming from baser motives, but is standing her ground for her sovereignty in the face of cult like practices that literally risked her life. The smugness of Magha can be to try to romanticize and turn everything into a game of love and rejection, where it is actually sexual boundary violation that negate the ability to have love or to reject in a way that is actually. Okay, the good thing about Magha Nakshatra is the awareness of the heart. The bad thing about Magha Nakshatra is neglecting the fact that rape is not love. And punishing the women that speak against rape by raping them is not practice. Now, um, it's also important to remember that the people that are recovering from these things, um, they are not as open to, how should I say, the flirtatiousness of people, um, or like I said, there is a difference between a satire that pinpoints the issue that causes sexual boundary violation and a satire that puts to mockery the people that go against rape. Okay, one is a satire, the other is kind of like not getting what a satire is about. And we see that with MAGA a lot because people were growing in environments where evil was considered something to celebrate. And mockery and humiliation was expected as a rite of passage. Um, and then when they're not well received outside of the MAGA circles, then they are like, they don't know what to do with that. And then what they do is try to avenge or try to mock the person that mock, or try to kind of like reflect, deflect, and so on, but it doesn't work because there was a real authentic issue that was addressed. And this is how the entire Epstein list became. Because it's not an issue that can be resolved by the means of the toxic traits of MAGA. That's the things that empire falls upon. And legacies become crushed stone monuments. Now, with Rahu in Aquarius co-present with Pluto, we are rejuvenating what is set in stone. And this is why this reminder comes in 3-episode series, because one could no longer, thank you. Yeah, one could no longer claim that they weren't warned, that nobody told them after these series. Now, the good things about the spirit of the times and Aries Pika opposition. We get the chance to spot this on time. We actually get the chance to raise the topic of esotericism and what we do want, or what can prevent femicide and witch hunting before it actually full-blown happens. That's unprecedented. Okay, I am not so convinced that women several centuries ago were warning women occultists for, if there are kind of like the women that were subjected to rape, then normalized rape so much so that they subjected other women to that, seeing that as something that can happen, not foreseeing that the entire sector of women occultism would be burned on the stake for basically placing themselves on a golden platter for the warlock men when rape was not abolished within occultism. Today we have social media, we have telepathy network, like the message can come across on time. The backlash, while somewhat bruising the ego, is a refinement crisis. It's not an abortion crisis. It's not a demotion crisis. It's a refinement crisis. And that refinement crisis is important. There are even women artists that use certain type of violent esoterics, um, or even the abracadabra. And we have to remember that this came in context of something that was not supportive of women, and that their entire issue to which they turn to the occult too can stem from. Now, no one is exempt from that. I was looking at the golden age of Islam, and I was thinking, and I was saying, oh, they were using astronomy to predict astrology. And then the other part came in for ritual. Now, because it was over there in Islam, respective to where I'm looking at, they could say for ritual, for religious ritual. What religious ritual? Now, I could swipe it under the rug and say, yeah, probably ritual, I don't know, offering to the offering of what? Or I could say, wait a second, that's a great thing that I know it now, because now I can look at the entire endeavor of astrology and say, well, I can say that there are definitely times when I open chart and I say, wait a second, I can see why what election was used on me now. And we can actually bring astrology to awareness from a place of negating ritual abuse, well, of addressing that issue, and then completely rethinking what would the world look like. What would Pluto mean without rape culture? If nobody trafficked women, or forcibly wed them in puberty, what would be Sedna? Beta per se, we already know, it's a wealth talisman. When there's no occultistic rape, it's a wealth talisman. When there is, it's a stones, it's a dead bodies upon bodies. It's basically literally signification of those that enabled rape, those that believe the rape is turned into stone. Was I targeted and astrally raped because I was using a talisman of a woman occultist? Because I was up and up in a woman occultist? These are many things that people begin to ask themselves.